All right, guys, what is up? We are live for the 58th installment on Playing to Win. Joined today with a gentleman by the name of Justin Waller. What's up, brother?
Hey man, how are you?
I am good. I'm good. And Justin and I did a collab a couple weeks ago on over on his YouTube channel. We had a really good conversation about business and life, and we spent a lot of time on entrepreneurship, which is an interesting and different talk. So if you guys haven't seen that, you should head over to his channel. It's just under Jay Waller, right?
Yep, it is Jay Waller on YouTube.
Yeah. So we kind of flipped the tables today, and I'm going to be asking Justin a bunch of questions. We're going to stay focused on how he's played to win to, clean up his life, because he started out a little bit of a chubby guy in his younger years, and he's an entrepreneur, business owner. He's got certain strategies and plans that work with women, self care, and money. So I'll be asking him a bunch of questions around that. If you guys are just newer to the channel and watching this, do me a solid and hit subscribe and give the video a like, just for the algorithms. And if you are watching, come over to YouTube, and this just helps me out a bit with the algorithms. Just watch it over here. I'm going to drop the link in the live chat on all the channels, so join me on over here. Justin, what have you been up to, man? I understand you're over in Dubai right now.
Yep, I'm over in Dubai with the Tates. We're doing a war room event. So we got about 20 guys here learning about all three of those things, the whole money, muscles, game thing, getting frame right with women. We actually, the guy running the event is a very dear friend of ours. He's actually taken all of them to the Tailors, gone really, really, really deep into style. I've learned a lot from the event actually myself. Just kind of one of the benefits of being in this group. So the guys are learning a lot. I'm learning a lot. We're making money. So it's a
Do
good
they
time.
have do they have a lot of like Asian tailors over there? Like, do they actually cut the suits and the shirts there, or do they take the measurements, send them over to Hong Kong, and then ship them over to you in the mail?
No, actually, they have a whole team of guys. They're Indian, and I had three suits and one jacket made in 4 days. So
Nice.
my first day I went in, we picked the colors, and we ended up picking the piping and everything. So my signature and everything
Hmm.
got put in this particular suit. This one was made the other day. So day one, we picked the colors. They cut it once, came back, cut it again. Final cuts, and they had four suits out the door, or four jackets and three pairs of pants out the door for me in 4 days. It was
That's
incredible.
sweet, man. It's pretty quick. I use an outfit here. I've talked about this before. It's called Maxwell's, and they do kind of like a North American tour. They measure you up at a. They usually rent out like a conference room in a hotel. They take your
Yep.
measurements, send them over to Hong Kong. They cut it up, and then they send you the stuff in the mail. So it's something I recommend guys do. Like, it makes a big, big difference. Actually, since we're on the topic, there's a picture here that I got from you earlier today that I wanted to kind of kick this off on, because this kind of like exemplifies the difference between poorly fitting clothing on a generally fat body versus something that's cut to fit properly. So this is an older picture of you. Like, how old are you here?
Probably 24.
24. And you got like the belly hanging over the belt. It's one of those off the rack shirts versus what you got right now. Like, that's a far better look. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Like, there's
Absolutely.
actually no question about it. Like,
Yeah.
you've got a far better or a far higher value, perceived value anyway, by the world, by women, by other guys as well, when you wear clothes that fit properly and complement your physique versus something that's just like pulled off the rack, and you look like a refrigerator basically, right? Square.
Yeah, absolutely. Even in fact, is before I was buying custom suits, I would, even if I bought a $200 suit from somewhere like I don't know, like Dillard's, going and get that suit cut tightly fitting to me made all the difference in the world.
Hmm.
So I really believe even a younger guy could make a huge difference in his wardrobe just by getting something cut very, very closely to him.
Hmm.
Even if he bought it just off the rack and had it done the right way. So I get them cut custom now. It's a big difference.
Yeah, and you can get pretty much anything cut, to be honest with you. I mean, I got this McLaren zip up kind of like sweater just over the holidays, and it was way too baggy. Guys that buy these cars are generally older guys that have put on some poundage. And I just brought it in. Dude charged me like 35 bucks to get it taken in a bit, kind of up here in the sleeves, and everything fits better when you do things that way. Dude, it's like, guys watching, don't discount properly fitting clothes. Like, make sure that you hold out to the public something that looks good on your physique, and definitely don't walk around fat. Can you talk a little bit about like that older, like 25-year-old guy that was more on the heavier side? Like, what did you have to do to drop all that weight? Because I mean, it makes your face look a lot tighter. Your cheekbones are more pronounced. You got more of a jawline. You obviously look more handsome when you lose weight off your face. It's one of the things that happens immediately. Like, it's not just your body that changes, but what was required for you to go through all those changes?
You know, man, I did play college football. So there was a time before that I was in really good shape. I had a very dramatic shoulder injury that put me in that position.
Mm.
And I didn't play my last semester. So I had some classes, but I knew I wasn't playing. And I just, you know, when you have all that size from playing ball and then you just let it go to absolutely nothing. And I did. I started.
Oh, your audio's just gone to crap on my end. Can you hear me still?
I can hear you loud and clear. Yeah.
Yeah, it froze up and it was chopping up. Let me just get you back up about 5 seconds. I'm not sure if you guys heard that in the chat. Just let me know if it's breaking up on your end as a watcher. Just back up
Am I
and say
good
that
now?
again, like the last 5 to 10 seconds that I lost.
Yeah. So basically what happened is, you know, I wasn't playing football anymore. And so instead of going to practice or going to lift weights, I would drink, and I was living more of a college lifestyle for the first time. You know, previous to that, the other 3.5 years, really, I was, you know, working out. I was with the team, I was traveling, I was playing, but that injury, I wasn't playing anymore.
Mhm.
And, you know, I drank beer and I ate pizza, and I was eating in a way that didn't work without lifting. So I got up to 248 pounds, just right there at 250.
Mhm.
And right now I probably walk around when I'm in really, really good shape at about 212. I'm probably about 218 now.
Mhm.
And, you know, I let it get away. And I also had $100 in the bank or less in that photo. So it was a bunch of things, man. I was just graduating. I was coming off an injury. I had let my lifestyle slip into a place where it shouldn't have been. And only I could be accountable for that. So for me, I had to fix it. I lost maybe about 36 pounds in 6 months after that photo.
Was that all
So
diet, or was that diet and exercise?
it was both. It was diet and exercise. I had to do both.
Mhm.
Actually, I would go to an Anytime Fitness and work out, and there was an Albertsons grocery store. It's an American chain of grocery stores that had an alley right there behind it, and I had a couple of cracks in the cement that I kind of had a really personal relationship. I would do the whole sprint jog thing,
Mhm.
and I lost the weight, and it was really hard to do. But you know, I really feel like when you get your body in a certain shape, it kind of remembers that homeostasis thing.
Mhm.
And so my body knows where I fluctuate is kind of, you know, in the range that I'm in now. And as long as I don't get too far away from that line with discipline, it stays there. And I believe that's kind of what discipline is. I don't think it's as straight as people think it is. I think it's more of a line. And then if you kind of get away from that line and you correct yourself without going too far, you kind of get back to it. And you know how it is. You go through
Yeah.
those little phases, those little micro phases. And I just refuse to let myself to go past any certain point. And I've done that now for, I guess, 12 years. You know, I'm 36 now, just turned 36 in December. So try to stay pretty close to it.
Talk to me about the win from $100 in your pocket in the fat guy picture to where you are today. I mean, you're an entrepreneur. I think you're in the construction industry, if I recall.
I am. Yeah.
Yeah. Can you talk a little
So
bit about that pivot?
yeah, sure. Absolutely. I bought the dream, Richard. I was told that if I made decent grades and I went to play college football, that I would get a college degree. And I grew up in a pretty poor family. So that I quit playing baseball and basketball and I went and played college football. And so I chose construction management. I was told it was 100% job placement and that I would be sitting in Dallas with a truck allowance and an office making $75,000 to $100,000 a year. You know, probably starting off at like 60 and making my way to 100, having healthcare, 401k, and I didn't know any better. And I graduated college in 2009, so that didn't happen. Luckily for me, I read a book called Rich Dad Poor Dad. I don't think that that's something super original, but I did read it my junior year in college. And so I kind of had it in the back of my head. And because I was forced into not really being able to get that job, which I'm actually really grateful for, because I think that would have been a scary thing to fall into. I went and I dug ditches for a company called Austin Bridge and Road in a small town in North Louisiana. That job ended. I came home. I waited tables at a churrascaria called Texas de Brazil in Baton Rouge. And it was really, honestly, probably the shittiest time of my life. I was really struggling with missing my college girlfriend. I broke up with Miss Louisiana at the time because I had monogamy issues and I didn't want to lie about it, or I didn't know how to confront it. And I didn't know how to be the person I am today. So I had that going on. I missed the girl. I had a shit job. Like the whole thing was completely fucked. It was probably the hardest time of my life.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
how old were you at that point? Was that still around 25, or was that a little bit older?
Yeah, it was right there at that point.
Okay.
I'd left the girl because my head was spinning and I wanted to explore my options, but I didn't know how to express that to her in a way that would keep the frame, if that makes sense. I just didn't know what I didn't know. And I broke up with her, couldn't recover her. She actually met a 6'4" Brazilian guy. I will say that she did come back years later, and she kind of lied to me about things that were going on there, but I'll digress. But so I ended up getting the upper hand in the end, but I was kind of already this guy when that happened, if that makes sense. You know how they are. And so
they always come back in the end.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So it was one of those situations where my fitness wasn't there. My money wasn't there. I didn't know what to do. Everything I've been told about what I should do was absolutely fucking wrong. You know, I say all the time that at college, in my opinion, unless
what were the
time.
biggest lies that you had to unplug from that were wrong? You know, because there's a lot of stuff that we as guys are fed, like a lot of beliefs that kind of plug you into the matrix, you know, that don't really serve you. So what were the biggest lies that, you know, that you had to unplug from?
Man, that you could live in a neighborhood the size of your boss's neighborhood by working for his company, you know, female nature, how love works, what love is, how women work. That's probably one of the biggest unplugs that I had to go through in my adult life. And that didn't happen until I was into my 30s.
I want to get to the women in a bit later, but I want to kind of talk more a bit about money and business right now. So
yeah,
speak a little bit more about like the unplugging when it came to money and wealth creation and, you know, setting your life up.
Absolutely. I had a lot of advice when I first started my metal building company to stay small.
Like, what do you mean by metal building? Is that those like the frameless, like the big aluminum buildings where you can drive trucks through, or boats, like the big storage units?
Think Costco. Yeah, we build a lot of Costco's, airplane hangars. So when you're sitting on the tarmac, and you look out and you see the airplanes flying, kind of going into the big buildings, the storage buildings. We build those. Walmart's, big rooms to go, big steel structures.
Okay.
But yeah, I was told to, you know, grow slow, stay small. Don't let it get too big. You'll go out of business. But I actually found that in the end, it's like, if I wasn't constantly growing, I was dying, you know? So I really had to be in a position where I would grow revenue, because what would happen is I would be scared that we couldn't do the work that I won. But if there was no work because it would rain or jobs would get delayed or whatever, I'd end up losing my men. Or worse, I would pay my men to stay to sit at home waiting on a job. And so one of the things that really helped me was getting over worrying about growing too big and really kind of going after it and really creating business systems. I did a lot of coaching with EMyth, that Robert E. Gerber book, EMyth. I did 1.5 years coaching with them at about 27 when we started to get to about around 2 million in revenue. And it really helped me out. I built a lot of systems, put a lot of things in place, and really kind of went against everything that people were telling me. And my dad, actually, not that he was a business person, but he would constantly be telling me, you know, son, aren't you worried about growing the company too big? Shouldn't you be worried? Don't you think that you're going to grow too big? When is enough? Isn't enough? And that was probably somewhere around 1 million, 1.2 million. And the problem with that was always simply like, yeah, but if I think I have this job and it gets pushed back 3 months, well, I have to pay payroll to those guys. So all the profit I would have made on that job, I'll lose.
Mm.
And I constantly be creating ways for revenue and just adding men. So I'd have this core capacity of men, and I would have to find ways around it, like subcontract jobs out. So which led me to have to create kind of scripts for negotiating and sales and finding new manpower, new systems to find more guys. We constantly are bidding jobs, but we're constantly recruiting every day, because I always tell my people, it's kind of like if sales are on this side, finding manpower on this side, and that project meets in the middle. And if I let either one of those legs get bigger than the other, then I will find myself in trouble.
Do you have any issues right now? Like, you still run the business, the metal building business?
Yes. Yeah.
Do you have any problems right now with staffing issues? Because one of the things that I've seen here, I've got a few friends that run some businesses in construction, and they have a real hard time attracting and retaining competent workers. Workers are either not interested, or they're lazy, or they call in sick, or they got like issues. They got addictive personalities, and they're addicted to drugs or stuff like that. Do you have any issues with your businesses? And if you do, like, how do you solve those?
Yeah. So it's the biggest problem that all of us have. I think a lot of our success comes from our ability to navigate through it. I have scripts for everybody that calls in. I have a very specific way that I'll probably never say out loud that we find these men and talk to these men and kind of caress a relationship between us and those men during the pre-interview process, the interview process, and even when they're actually on working for us. We treat our guys, and I believe this, if a guy is working for me, he's buying me. So
what do you mean by that?
Well, so for example, like, a lot of times in construction, you'll go to a client and you'll tell them all the reasons why, and you'll treat them well, and you'll do all these certain things. It's not so much that we baby or pamper them in, but we kind of understand their position, and we try to do things to keep them buying into the company and coming back. Simple things, birthday parties, maybe, and even there's times where, I'll turn up and start putting money in their pocket, because what they do is very dangerous. I'll take them to get beer. I treat them, a certain way. And I've got guys that would absolutely kill for me. And then I have guys that are kind of distant, maybe mercenaries in a way. Mm-hmm. But that problem right there is the number one problem in construction. And it's not just in my trade, it's in every trade, and it's nationally. It's something that when I go to my board meetings for the Metal Building Contractors Directors Association, it is the number one thing that is brought up. Because when you look at it, the American kid doesn't want to do it. I feel because of social media, if a guy says he's working with his hands, it's not appealing to women. The internet's basically told him he failed because he's not drop shipping from beach selling Amazon. It's true. It's absolutely true. So it's not a very sexy thing
I'm agreeing with you, my man.
It's not a very sexy thing to do. Like, it's a hard pitch. It's a hard pitch.
Yeah, I've said before, man, like, if you've got a woman that's looking at a guy that's a junior lawyer, at a law firm making 60, 70 grand a year, versus a guy that might be like running a plumbing company, and he's got plumbers that work for him and he's making $250,000 a year, like, he's paying himself well. She's probably going to pick the lawyer just because he looks like better arm candy, right?
Yeah, it's true. Look, when I first got started, I've never really had issues with women, like in a major way. Especially when I was kind of already started the company, I was on my way up, I had lost some weight. Mm-hmm. I looked like a good prospect. But I'll say there's nothing sexy about saying I'm a steel erector, or I hang steel. And just like you're saying with the plumber, there's nothing really sexy about it. And it's about the way we make our money too. You're working with your hands, you have calluses, you're on job site, you're wearing boots. I would constantly have a set of boots to go on job sites and a hard hat, and then close to go to the bank to beg for money so I can cover my payrolls. But it's not the most sexy thing in the world, but if you get it right, you can make really good money, really good. So I always say that construction was the only way that we knew how to make doctor money in boots. And that's literally true. I was literally a redheaded stepchild to a guy that did metal buildings. He would do 30 by 40s in backyards. And that's how I was kind of conscious of the situation.
What happened to your old man?
My stepdad was with my mother, so I grew up in a house with him. I wasn't his, so we weren't particularly close, but I was the oldest. And I would go on job sites with him and pack panels. And so they'd be on the roof drinking Bud Heavy, no shirts, in somebody's backyard. And I was, 13, kind of trying to pack sheets and push them against the building so they could pull them up on the roof, stuff like that. But he wasn't, I don't know if you're familiar with the term redneck or South Louisiana at all, but he wasn't a business guy. So there was never going to be really a business between he and I. He's worked for the company a couple of times. I fired him every time, just thing.
Oh, you're frozen up again. Let's give it a second to see if it buffers and cleans itself up, but we got a little bit of a freezing issue here with the internet connection. Here, I'm just going to pull Justin out and bring him back in to see if that fixes it. Can you hear me all right?
Yep, I can hear you.
That seems to fix it. Like every 20 minutes or so, it seems to freeze up for some reason. But anyway, no, I lost you there for a bit. But I mean, like what I was driving at is what happened to your biological father?
My biological father was actually, he was about 4 hours away. It would get into the subject of women. Mm-hmm. It's a very deep topic. Actually, red pill information has really helped me unpack my life and what actually happened in front of me that I didn't understand previously. Mm-hmm. But he was about 4 hours away. He grew up farming cotton. My grandfather was a tail gunner in World War II, and he came back home and
B-17.
took on carpentry. What's that?
B-17, B-24?
24.
24,
yeah.
Okay. Liberator.
Yeah. Yeah, and he was going to, I believe he was going to go to the upgrade. So he was actually on a train going to Texas to get trained up on the new plane to go on his second tour. And he got to the bus stop and everybody was hooping and hollering, and he found out it was over. So he didn't have to go on a second tour. And he came home to Oxford, Mississippi, and he built some houses, bought some land, started farming cotton. So my father grew up farming cotton in Oxford, Mississippi. And so it's very small, small-minded, simple, one of those guys that would say it takes money to make money. Things are expensive, deep Southern draw, wonderful, wonderful man, but not really educated to the level that would have been able to make, either some kind of big business or think really big outside the box or anything of that nature. So, but he was about 4 hours away. We see him every other weekend.
Who was your biggest inspiration, when it came to your unplugging? Like my dad wasn't particularly useful when it came to showing me the truth about the world, right? Like he was a good man and, like a family guy and all that sort of stuff. And, my parents are still together, but he wasn't particularly useful in helping me unplug and see the reality of the world. So, that came from other sources, other mentors, books that I read, stuff like that. What about you? Like, where did you actually get the useful information that you apply to life right now?
My situation wasn't so much, I feel like a lot of people see something and they follow it and mirror it. My situation, I think, was more about what I didn't want to become. I was in a house that had a lot of screaming, a lot of physical things going on. And I just knew that I didn't want a part of it. And I think that's why I clung to sports so much, is because I was able to be good enough at sports where the other parents would have me over and stay the night. I used sports to kind of get the fuck out of my house. And I used college football to get out of my town. It was kind of, I don't know if you ever seen that movie, October Skies?
No.
With a kid. Yeah. So he grows up in a coal mining town and he just wants to do anything but go in that fucking coal mine. And in South Louisiana, we have the plants because the Mississippi River's there. So there's a lot of industrial work and everybody goes and works in the plants. And I just knew that I didn't want to do that. And I didn't particularly want to do metal buildings for that matter. So I went and I played ball, and I thought that I would end up getting to somewhere like Dallas or something of that nature. And obviously that turned. But it was really, for me, I wasn't mirroring a person, but I knew who I didn't want to be, especially in my early to mid 20s. Now, somewhere around 26, 27, I started to really, really, really dig into YouTube, really, and started to follow guys like you. I would follow a lot of business people. So I would follow, Grant Cardone's and people like that. A lot of that grow the business bigger type type stuff. And I really spent a lot of time alone. I spent a lot of time with you when it came to women, especially when I was going through breakups and shit like that. It would validate how I was feeling. I'd go searching for things like that to validate what I was feeling, because everybody around me, especially in the South, was telling me I was wrong. And I knew I was right, but I had nobody around me to tell me I was right. I knew I needed to grow my business bigger. I knew that I didn't want to go work in the plant, so I'd have to go online and validate it. So I spent a lot of time on YouTube with people that could validate the feeling that was inside of me, and helping me kind of deal with what I knew I didn't want to be.
How did you separate the bullshit that's on YouTube from the useful stuff? Like, how did you identify what's real versus what's fake? Because there's a lot of controversy on that. And I find it interesting that you spent so much time consuming my content. You got it that, got that much value out of it. So I'm just curious about how you separate the wheat from the chaff, so to speak.
Sometimes you don't know. I think that there's a lot of bullshit that goes on the internet. I wanted to go on YouTube for a very, very long time, but I couldn't let myself. You particularly, I feel like there is a genuineness about you. The bullshit, you're super dry, no offense, but you're Canadian.
Get right to the point, my man.
Yeah. And look, and that's how it should be. People tell me all the time they appreciate my videos because they're so short. I like no bullshit. And I think most men that really want to get shit done are no bullshit. So you particularly, I picked up on. Even now, me and you talk a good bit now after the first show, but you're still very boom, boom, boom. I don't have a problem with that. I like people like that because I know they don't have time to bullshit me. Most of the time, it's kind of like a church person. If they talk to you 30 minutes about why they're so Christian, do you really trust them? No. So it's like, fuck, man. And I think that a lot of times when people talk about, I had a gut feeling, I don't think that's your gut at all. I think that's your subconscious picking up little micro expressions and things that are going on to check congruency with what somebody's saying. And then all of a sudden you think you have a gut feeling. No, your brain just caught it. And so for me, I feel like I have a really good bullshit detector when it comes to that. And I try to keep on with myself. And there's plenty of things that I can't answer. There's plenty of questions that I haven't solved yet for myself. I'm very open about that. I still watch fucking YouTube videos, dude. Oh,
hang on a second. I'm going to pull you out and bring you back in because you're frozen again. Let's try it again. No. Come on, YouTube. Work with me. Oh, for crying out loud. There we go. He's back.
Got it?
Yeah, it just cut out again. So just back up about 5-6 seconds and say that again.
Yeah. So what I was saying is like, there's that authenticity there that we pick up on, that we call our gut feeling. And I feel like I have a really good like internal, meter for that. And so even now, I watch your videos now. I watch Kiyosaki. I watch Gammon all the time. I'm constantly learning things. There's plenty of things that I don't know. There's plenty of development that I'm still trying to have at 36. When is enough? Never. It's never enough. And so for me, I know that I can give a lot of guys advice, young guys, but I can't do it without the humility to say that I'm still growing myself. And,
Yeah, it's a moving target. I mean, as a guy, you have to have some humility. I don't like the word being humble, because I think that just pussifies too many guys. But I think that you have to have, I always say, like, the first step in unplugging is becoming aware of your own bullshit. And then a second step is becoming aware of the bullshit that's around you. And a lot of people don't even get to the first point, right? I mean, they just lie to themselves, like it's impossible, or it's some other lie that doesn't serve them completely. Do you spend quite a lot of time in the metal building business today, or do you have people that run it for you? Like, what's your position right now? Because I notice that you travel around a lot. You've got time to upload videos on YouTube now.
Yeah. I've built some very, very strong systems. I have a very strong staff. I talk to them directly every day. I get daily reports. When I do come home, I spend most of my time with my own team. And I take them to dinners. I take them to lunches. We do things together. There's trust there. There's very little bullshit. I'll call people out immediately. We have no politics in our management team. We run EOS, which is a mixture of EMyth and a series of books by Patrick Lencioni. which is the ideal team player death by meeting. So we run these L10 meetings every week. We run a very, tight offense, if you will, but we're very, very, very close. And it's mostly just the fact that there's no bullshit in between us, and the culture's built. And it's a lot like, I think we might have spoke about this before, but there's an old video out from the 70s where one person's dancing in the field by themselves, and at about 2 minutes, the second person comes to dance. And then after maybe another minute, there's like 30 or 40 people dancing.
Oh, is that the clip that I showed at the Sasquatch Music Festival?
Yeah,
he's on a hill.
So.
He's on a hill.
Yeah.
That's an amazing example of like doing the right thing so that you attract the people into your orbit, sort of thing. Yeah.
Right. And so it's one of those machines now where we're in a group text every day, and nobody wants to fuck with that anymore. Mm-hmm. If we hire a person, they'll quit. A lot of times before we would have to cut them, or we'll all collectively cut them. I'm very big on letting the team make decisions and empowering them in a certain way. I have the last say, but they don't ever feel unheard with me. In fact, just yesterday we had a project. It was a big Chevrolet project. It was a big building that had multiple parts of the scope of work, and all of the profit was in these two larger buildings. We were going to put a roof on them and re-roof them and do some things. And then there was kind of some bullshit work on the side. And the contractor who won the job came to us and said, listen, we had something happen with the owner. We had to give the bigger portion to this other company, but we still want you to do the small part. Well, unfortunately, we had bid that job, 5 or 6 times to try to get it. And we had all this pre-construction cost. And so I pulled the group together. We all got on a phone call, and I said, look, this is how I feel about it. If we're not going to make money, we've already kind of lost money. What do you guys think? And they all agree with me. And I said, well, if that's what you guys feel, then tell them to kick rocks, man. And I think that empowering the group and making them feel like they're heard at a minimum, but every chance I get to let them make a decision and pull the trigger, I do it.
All those systems that you mentioned that you put in place, I think I heard you mention EMyth, and there was another one. Did you work with a coach, for any length of time, or did you join like a business forum or anything like that?
I did it all. I did EMyth for 1.5 years. Mm-hmm. And one thing that I noticed is I got to a point where I was almost autistic about systems. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? I over systematized the business, and I forgot
about problematic. Yeah.
Yeah. And I forgot about the human element. Mm-hmm. And it hurt me in my early 30s, like 30, 31, 32. And so I backed off of it, and I looked at all of my systems, and I kind of figured out which ones worked. But I did Vistage. Didn't really like that. It was just a bunch of dudes sitting around crying about their wives and shit. Super fucking gay. It was, bro. It was super gay. It was horrible.
Dude, that's one of the reasons why I stopped dealing with EO, and I like the organization and the speakers and a lot of the learning events, but it was the same thing. I mean, a lot of entrepreneurs I found anyway, when you start to network and collab with them, they've got some good ideas and they've got good tools and good systems, and there's a lot of use that comes out of having them in your network, I think. But for the most part, it's like, you'll sit around and there's a dude doing an update, and he's like, yeah, my wife's not having sex with me, or I was lucky to get sex last week, and I'm trying the whole happy wife, happy life. And I read the love languages book, and I think her love language is this. And it's like, you're just like, after a while, you're like, you guys are like, I can't help you, man. Like,
Yeah, it's true. And you know what I think creates that is like being an entrepreneur is a very lonely place. Mm-hmm. Especially when the business starts growing, because now all of a sudden you have problems that other people can't relate to.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, you have $100,000 payroll this week. I can't pay my light bill. Nobody wants to hear that shit from you.
Yeah.
Or, oh, you drive a BMW and your wife doesn't suck your dick. Well, I drive a Honda and my wife doesn't suck my dick, or just whatever it is. It's just, it's hard for those guys. But those groups like Vistage and things, and no disrespect to the organization, they were not for me. Mm-hmm. They were never going to be for me. I did that. I still do EOS. We still have an EOS coach. I keep the EOS coach there. It costs me about $30,000 a year, mm-hmm. but I keep him there because EOS is a 2 CEO system where there's a visionary and there's an integrator. And so I stay in that visionary role and I have an integrator underneath me. And so what I do is when I come in with all these ideas or certain things I want to look at doing, this person actually does those things and kind of pushes the team on a day-to-day basis and then reports to me. So
So you're in like a co-CEO format where you have like
it
somebody
is.
that's basically your partner, right?
It is. It's a co-CEO format, and they're pushing through. We'll have weekly meetings, but we have quarterly goals that we set. And so he is letting me know every day where all the individual measurables are that tie into the weekly meeting, where all the rocks are, the things that we said that we'd get done in the first quarter, where the revenue goals are, so we set a goal to do 12 million this year. So he's broken it down by quarter because most of our work happens in the second and third quarter. So it's like 15%, 15% on the first and the fourth quarter. And then 70% happens in the spring and the summer for us because of, the rain, the holidays, et cetera. And so we kind of back those numbers out to make revenue projections by quarters. And so he breaks it down by the week. And I get a report every day on how we're doing on that, how we're doing on, a certain amount of sales calls, profit on projects, composite hourly rate for crews, because we run men in trucks. So we have a lot of direct employees. And, it's something that's constantly moving and changing as the business grows. The reports change all the time, but it's a pulse, and we're on top of it. So, I've done a lot of those groups.
They have another way that they frame that. I can't remember who the speaker was. I want to say it was Kevin O'Leary at a EO event I was at, and the guy said something along the lines of, if you're going to run a partnership, the only time you're going to find that it's going to be successful is if you have the inside guy and the outside guy, which is kind of the way that you structure it. I mean, they're calling it like the visionary and the guy that executes, but the best way to illustrate that would be the dynamic between what happened with Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak. Jobs was the guy that would get on the stage. He was a marketing guy. He was out front and center, boisterous ideas, like the visionary sort of thing. Like if the garbage bins, like this is a true story, like the garbage bins weren't black enough for him, he would walk around the office and shit on the people that ordered the garbage bins to make sure that they were the right shade of black, for him, sort of thing. And then Wozniak was the guy on the inside that, basically executed with the hardware and made everything happen that Jobs, had like the vision and make sort of work. So those sorts of dynamics work. I mean, a lot of times guys ask me about partnerships and I tell them straight up, look, if you're going to do it, make sure that your skills complement each other. Like you possess skills that they don't have and they possess skills that you don't have. And you have clearly defined roles where somebody is on the outside, like of the business. He's a visionary. He's the guy that, basically flies up to 30,000 feet of altitude and looks down at the landscape and can, plan and plot sort of things. And then the inside guy is like more of like the hands-on, he's the guy behind the curtain sort of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. My business isn't a partnership, but it is definitely a co-CEO role. And I agree with you completely. And I also agree with that for hiring. One thing that I'm constantly doing, I just made a video about it. I don't know if we released it yet or not, but I'm constantly looking to fire myself. And generally, I'm firing myself from things that I'm either not good at or I don't have an energy for.
Right.
There's some things that I'm very good at that I absolutely freaking hate doing. So I fire myself for those things. And I do think I had a really good ability to step outside myself and say, okay, what does Justin need to be fired from? And I've constantly tried to do that because every time I fire myself, we grow. Because then I'm off to the next thing, stirring up trouble somewhere, figuring out how we can, make money again. And for those guys that partnership is a hard thing, especially if your partner, and I hate to talk about women again, but if you have a partner and he doesn't have his situation right at home, it can destroy a business.
Absolutely.
Or if you guys don't have the same goals and the same vision, like really locked in hard, it can destroy the business. And understanding that you guys are really just sitting on a board above the org chart, and you have your places in the org board that you're going to carry out. In EOS, we call it 5 roles and responsibilities for each position. And sometimes your name is next to 2 of those positions, really understanding, hey, I'm really this person and this person until we grow big enough or we can hire this position out. Which one do I need to get fired from first?
Yeah.
Partnership is tough.
Yeah, one of the things that's a really good exercise to go through Um, you can basically draw 4 quadrants: vertical axis, horizontal, and you're going to start to identify what tasks and skills you have that you love to execute on and that you've got a lot of skill in. And you can put all the tasks in the one corner. Then you've got you love to execute on, but you don't have the skill in on the other side. And then down over here, you've got you don't have the skill and you don't love to execute on. But what I'm basically getting at is when you start getting into the quadrants where you don't have the skills and you hate, what it is that you're doing, those are the things that you either stop doing, you outsource, or you hire somebody else to do it, or you just like one of the things that you actually start to find after a while is like you're doing a lot of shit that you don't need to be done, like get done. It's kind of an inside thing that engineers often joke about. I think there's a clip somewhere that I saw with Elon Musk where he was talking about how engineers love to complete and put together systems and tasks for things that don't really need to be done. And they spend a lot of time managing those people to make sure that they're staying focused on productive tasks that are useful. We got a super chat over here. UE Outdoors says, any advice for a 22-year-old? I'm an owner operator truck driver, so I make $100,000 a year. Fitness is on point, and I'm in Andrew Tate's Hustlers University looking to get into crypto. Any advice you two gentlemen can give me? What do you got for this guy?
Keep going. Watch out for automation of trucks. It's coming. I don't think it's going to come fast enough to affect you. So I'd keep getting trucks, man. If you're making that kind of money, scale. Try to get that truck running 24 hours a day so the drivers switch out and get big enough to make some really good money. Because if you're driving that truck, you don't own the business yet. You're in the business.
I'll give you 2 pieces of advice. One, don't exchange time for money. Never let yourself get into a position where you have a block, like an hour, and you can earn a certain amount of money for that block of time. There's only 24 hours in a day. You have to sleep, 6, 7, 8 of them. You got to eat. There's other things you got to do. So you only have a certain number of hours in a day. So you're always going to cap your earning potential if you're exchanging time for money. You want to set yourself up in an environment where you're earning money or compounding earning opportunities at even events when you're sleeping, for example. So that's something to consider. The other thing too, as well, is if you're not on my email list, get on the damn email list. Let me grab the ticker. I'll put it down at the bottom. There's about 8 or 9 video. Like I don't send out a lot of emails, but there's a video. I think it's maybe the 5th email that goes out, and it's linked to a private video that I released to my community only. And it's things that you don't want to do in business. And as Justin was, exemplifying earlier, there's certain things that you need to get clear on that you do not do. I mean, you can get clear on what you should be doing, but it's often, I find, far easier to get clear on what not to do. It's one of the reasons why in my book, I talked about the red flags, because if you want to simplify your life and not invite crazy into it, then getting clear on what looks like toxic is certainly going to simplify it a lot more, if that makes sense. There's another one here for you, Justin. He's asking, what books would you recommend to read to get the upper hand in trade management?
Trade management. There's not many books out there on trade management. So really it's going to come down to you creating your own systems. You could read Good to Great by Jim Collins. I like that book a lot. I would read EMyth, and I would read EMyth for contractors. There is a contractor's version for that book. So those are the 2 that come to mind. But I feel like I've read damn near almost all of these books, and I would take 1 or 2 little things from each of them. So I wouldn't stop.
It's possible to like overindulge in, like all of these books and not really do anything. Because one of the mistakes that I've made before, it's like I'll just read, consume, listen to podcasts. It's like at some point you run out of opportunities to actually execute on the new lessons that you learn, and you can just overindulge in like basically masturbation, right? Like you're not doing anything.
Mental masturbation.
Consuming, right? Have you ever done that?
I have done that. And I've done it just like that wrong. And then I've done it right. Obviously wrong is when I just kept reading and didn't do anything about it. It'd be like going to a seminar and making a list of things to do and then not doing it and going to another one. But when I've done it right, what happened was I grew the business to a certain point, and I ran into a certain issue that I didn't know how to solve. So I went looking on how to find that issue. And this is the most healthy way to do it, in my opinion, is once you grow yourself into the next problem, because you want problems, because if you don't have bigger problems, you're not growing. Mm-hmm. And so I'd run into this problem, and then I'd go find the solution via a book, via coaching, via a seminar, whatever that may be. So I think there's a healthy way to do it, and I think there's an unhealthy way to do it. And I'm definitely a person that's done both.
Do you think it's like when it comes to money, one of the pieces of advice that I hear far too often that really annoys me, and I want to get your feedback on us and see what your strategy is, but people that tell you to save. And that's not how you create wealth. I mean, there's no ultra wealthy or high net worth individuals that I know of, that I've worked with anyway, that achieve the level of success and wealth that they've created for themselves by penny pinching, cutting coupons, stuff like that. What's your success, or what's your strategy been to creating wealth for yourself?
Yeah, saving money is bullshit. You'll never save yourself rich. Income is everything. And that's kind of in line with what I was saying earlier about, people would tell me, isn't enough. Don't you want to slow down? You can't save it. Income is everything. So the top line of that P&L is a thing we're always trying to grow. Obviously, we want to keep our margins. But I hired 2 people today. I just got off a phone call on the way over here. We left the event to come hop on with you here, and I got a phone call, and she's like, well, the lady wants $5,000 more. And I said to my girl, I said, look, do you think she'll be able to sell 3 or 4 million, this year? And she said, yeah. So why the fuck are we talking about $5,000? And I don't think people really think that way. I'm constantly thinking, I don't think about the $60,000, $70,000 it's going to cost me to hire another office staff. I think about how much revenue they're going to bring in, and how much profit's going to be on the other side of that if we get it right. And if not, we'll get them out the door and get somebody else that does. In fact, I had a deeper conversation with that same person about this. She goes, well, Justin, what if they're not right? Okay, cool. What if we get it wrong 3 times? And she said, oh, well, that'd probably be close to $200,000. Okay, cool. But what if we hit that goal of selling that 3 or 4 more million? She goes, well, it really doesn't matter. I said, that's right. Find her, hire her, and that's the way I look at it. And so, no, saving money, because the truth is you're going to pay huge taxes. You sit on the money. So I'm always trying to rotate it and keep it moving. Stale money disappears. It sits in that bank account, and you find a way to spend it the wrong way. So I'm always trying to grow it. And money's just a tool. Mm-hmm. Money's nothing more than a tool.
Yeah. Yeah, save money to grow yourself, basically, if that's what you're going to do. Yep. So let's talk about personal life, women. You kind of alluded to a little bit earlier, but I mean, you're with Miss Louisiana in your 20s, and you broke up with her. You had an issue with monogamy. What's your strategy with women today, and what lies have you had to unplug from to execute on these strategies? The fairy tale, be a good guy. I grew up in the South, don't be a piece of shit, step up, all those songs and dances, the things that do the right thing. Yeah.
Yeah. The world really tries to guilt men into going against their biology, in my opinion. And I didn't have an answer for that for a very, very, very long time. And I got to a place where I finally got fed up with it. I would say that Andrew and Tristan have had a big impact on me, really being able to find a place where I could vent that and not have to be wrong. Sterling and I are very, very close. Obviously, we live together, and we both feel the same way about it. So I was able to create a structure where I didn't have to be wrong anymore. And
what was the aha moment that you got from Tristan and Andrew?
They won't leave. If you're the fucking man, they ain't leaving. And that's the big fear, right?
That's the key, though, is being the man, though. Because a lot of guys, like I see this soundbite going around a lot on the internet, especially in the Mano Swamp. You hear guys saying shit like, "Oh, you're the prize." Like men are the prize. But then you look at them, you click on their avatar, and you're like, dude, you're the furthest thing from that, right? So
yeah, you're not shit.
Yeah, you ain't shit, man. It's like she will leave. If you ain't
and I'd
shit.
add to that too. They talk all this shit like they want women to change. Let me say for the record, I absolutely hope women do not change, because you can take a woman that's acting a certain way with man A and give her to me, and I will get the absolute best version of that woman that exists. And so they're talking all this shit about women, but they're not actually doing the work to actually line up with what women are actually looking for. So they blame it on women and say women are trash and all this other stuff. I don't have women problems. Women are absolutely fucking wonderful to me. I don't have it. My frame's right. They either get on the program or they get the fuck out. They go. They know that, so they stay. So a lot of these guys on the internet, I really think they have a misrepresentation of how women work, and they want to blame it on women instead of doing what it takes to get a woman to cater and want to be the kind of woman for you that they actually, want to have in their life.
Yeah. You just can't say like you're the prize and not be it. I mean, you can't, like, I can't go outside and, find a 20-year-old rusted piece of shit car and say, you're a Lamborghini. It doesn't work that way.
You can't.
You actually have to be the Lamborghini.
Yeah. And any woman that, like, you're talking about, like, women should respect men. Should they? Should they respect every man? Because if she respects every man, and if she respects him, she loves him, right? Or if she respects him, she's probably going to sleep with him. So if you just have a woman that respects every man just for him being a man and not for having to do any kind of work, really, she's just a whore, isn't she? Mm-hmm. I want a woman that basically thinks all other men are shit, and she thinks I'm the fucking man who wants to do everything for me. Because I've done that work, and it was very painful, and I should have went bankrupt a bunch of times. I was fat. It was painful. I had to push through. I just had my 4th shoulder surgery, so I'm fighting through it. You very obviously, you have quite a history of overcoming things to get where you are, to be in the position to do what you do, drive the cars, have the business. I don't know how God gave you that fucking beard, but whatever. Complain about that later. But man, you have to do it.
It's always guys with great hair that want my beard.
Yeah. I cheated, bro. I had 2 transplants. I meant to tell you that last time. Guys ask me that shit all the time. And I don't respond to it, but I'm not shy about it. Okay. I did about 28. I think about 28. I was like, "Ooh, I see this coming." So I jumped on.
Well, it works for some guys. My understanding is if you catch it early and you have like thick enough hair, then it does work out for you. But yeah, I mean,
the donor area. I had a good donor area. That. Yeah, but yeah, I truly believe that you can take a woman that acts a certain way. Now, if they're too far gone, they're too far gone. Like, I'm not talking about women that are super feminist. Like, there is a such thing as a blueprint, but within a range, you can take a woman that could be moldable and get what you desire out of that woman if you are in fact the right man.
Let me ask you this question. So on a percentage basis, you're dealing with whatever, like 10, 100, whatever the number happens to be, but on a percentage basis, what percentage of women in North America, because I mean, like, you live in Miami, right now, but let's just say with most of the women that you're dealing with, do you think are moldable, to the point where they will enter your frame and comply?
Yeah.
Ones that you're attracted to.
Yeah, absolutely. What I will say about Miami, I think Miami, LA, New York, big metropolitans are outliers. Mm-hmm. I joke with Sterling all the time that I feel like they are like an all-star team of kind of like not the ideal girl. Mm-hmm. But I think that if you go into America in general, and that's kind of like when the young guys are watching Fresh and Fit, you have to realize that these are Miami hoes. Truly. They're an all-star team of girls from all over the country that are pretty much done for. But if you go to Louisiana, Texas, maybe upper Florida, all the other states, and even California, just get out of that one big metropolitan city. There's good women out there. And I always hate to hear guys talking shit about women. And it's not because I'm a simp or anything like that. I just know for a fucking fact that women will act right. If you are that person, you can get them in line, let them know where the boundaries are and what you will or will not do. And in fact, I find that it turns women on quite a bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true.
Because you speak with conviction.
What amount of pushback are you willing to take? I mean, like, we talked earlier about how how most women will generally comply if you're a high enough value guy and they see you as your best option. I mean, that's, we've talked about hypergamy for ages, beating it like a dead horse, but it's like essentially women want to look up at a guy. They want to be with a giant. They want to be with somebody that they respect. They want to, like, they look into your future and they basically say, think to themselves, okay, this is a guy that's got, they start ticking off all the boxes sort of stuff. And then they start to behave, if you will. Right.
Right.
What's your level of tolerance for pushback and drama, when it comes to women today?
Comply or goodbye.
That's it.
It's super simple.
Yeah.
That's it, man. I don't have to, because I can't even answer all the messages in my inbox anyway.
You just use like the standard line, like, I don't date women that insert, negative behavior.
I'll do it conversationally. I'm not a complete jackass about it. That's another thing I think guys get wrong.
Mm-hmm.
They think that they're going to come through and jump off the top rope, if you will. You know what I'm saying?
Jump
like
off the top rope with the arm bar coming for you.
Yeah. It's like, dude, you're not the fucking Rock. Okay, so calm down. No, so it's very subtle. It's like, I'll bring it up in conversation. It's like, if I get serious about a chick, I don't do guy friends. And I'll give them the whole Lamborghini in the hood thing or whatever. And I'll tell them. Or if they do something like go on a boat or something. Hey, listen, no disrespect. I thought we were more serious than that. Or I thought you took us more serious than that. I can't take you seriously if we're going to have sex and you're going to go on the boat 2 days later in Miami. Yeah. I'm not trying to tell you what to do. You do what you want with your life. I'm just letting you know that I don't do that. So it's very much less what you think it would be.
Do you get a lot of Justin, oh, you're just controlling, you're insecure. Like, how do you deal with those lyrics?
No, I don't get a whole lot of that. But if a woman ever called me insecure, I'd say, no, I'm not secure. I'm territorial. And if a man doesn't love you enough to want to be territorial around you and about you, then does he really love you? Does he? It's hard to argue with that.
I'm pretty sure I've heard Andrew say that before.
Yeah, I'm sure he has. Yeah. I'm sure he has. He also says the Lamborghini thing, you know,
about, leaving the car parked in the hood.
Yeah. I trust you, but why would I park my car there? And I like to add to that. And what I say is, the whole thing is, I trust the locks on my Lamborghini, but I don't park it in the ghetto. And then I add to that.
Do you use the Lamborghini example when you're dealing with the girls from Louisiana, or do you use like a F-150?
Yeah, I'll probably say my truck.
A truck.
Yeah. But what I say to them is, so why would you park it there?
Yeah. Because
I always want to put it back to her.
Yeah. They inherently know that you're right. They just want to see if you've got the capacity to keep them in their place, right?
It's a test. One of the strongest things that I think a woman can know is that you can replace her.
Yeah, I've always said, like, she has to know that she's replaceable. You don't need to walk around and tell her, like, bitch, you're replaceable. It's just she has to know that she is replaceable. Got a super chat here from Not Your Side Check. Says Jack Donovan said aggressive men are the check on society. Is it fair to say weak men are the check that degrades it? I'd say, yeah, man. There's a general pussification of the West. The Western male, Western society. A lot of the soy stuff going around. I don't know. Like, what do you think, Justin?
They're destroying everything. They're absolutely destroying everything. Like, if we look at everything that's going on in society right now, even down to COVID, weak men are destroying everything, because if men didn't want this shit to happen, it would not be happening, any of it.
Justin Trudeau is a prime example of that. Shout out to all the truckers in Canada that are doing this convoy up to Ottawa. But this pussy now is like basically saying that, he's been exposed and now he wants to go into hiding because all these truckers, they're all alpha males. These are all guys that are like big, strong dudes that haul ass, and move commerce for us. Like these beta males are big ass problem, when it comes to, situations like this, because they want to rein in the fear, man. They want to scare you. And it's like the plugged in women, the plugged in dudes, they love it. They eat that shit up. It's like a big steak dinner, for guys like us.
Yeah. I joke and I say that let them stay weak. I'll try, I'll go through as many of them as I can, but it's kind of not true.
Makes it easier for you.
Yeah, it does make it easier for me in regards to getting women. But the problem is I don't have enough time to sleep with them all. And so then it starts to get into politics and business. and we deal with shit like we're dealing with now. And I kind of feel like we're going towards socialism in America just because there's a bunch of weak guys, you know. I did something with Rolo recently, and what I said was, I feel like our government is trying to obviously they want to put a gap between whites and blacks in party lines.
Yeah.
But I feel like they're trying to do the same thing between men and women, because they've realized with the technology, they can get women to do a lot of these jobs. So now they can churn tax money out of both sides. So the best way to do that is put a wedge in between them. If I was going to invest big money in a stock, and I'm not, you know, I do my stuff with Edward Jones, but if I was going to throw all in something, I'd probably do box wine and cat food, man, because it's just fucking horrible.
Yeah, the simp economy is is a big one. I was at a retreat over the weekend, and one of the guys was, I mean, I can't get into specific details, but he's basically able to code really well. And we were talking about business opportunities that would placate to the simp economy. And there's a lot of opportunities out there right now, like to the point of these weak men and how they're trying to drive a wedge between men and women. I mean, they've been very successful at it. In fact, I would clearly state that they've achieved the desired outcome, where men in North America are generally no longer accepted as the head of the household, and women would rather comply with Big Daddy state, wear a mask, take your jabs, do this, to get your social payments, to get your mother's allowance, all that sort of stuff. They would rather comply with the government than comply with the frame of a strong, masculine, virtuous man. A lot of women today.
I would say that they think they would rather.
Yeah, until they discover what it's actually like. But
right.
But by the time they get to that point, they've got like 3 kids from 3 different dudes and are like 50 pounds overweight and got short purple hair, and no Chad wants anything to do with them, right?
Their whole identity is tied around it.
Yeah.
And I think that women are massively unhappy.
They are.
I think it's against everything that's natural for women to do the way that they're currently acting. And some of these girls you can save, but by the time they get past 23, 24, it's hard to turn that ship, man. And why even do it if you can get a younger one? So it's hard. And even if you turn that girl, you now have to turn her family.
And
so you have to turn the girl so much that, and I've done this actually. I've done it with my main girl. They came after her on Thanksgiving about my YouTube channel and some of the things that I've said. And she told me,
family came after her.
Yeah.
Okay.
Came after her. But you know what?
Over like anything specific that you can talk about?
I don't remember. They were just watching the videos and like, what do you think about this? And you're not on his Instagram, but blah, 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 all these things. And dude, she told him to fuck off, and her mom actually took up for me as well, because look, I don't hide who I am. Everybody is very open. It's very known what I do. It's very known what I do when I'm hanging out with the Tates or we're doing business. I'm all over the place all the time. There's
who
no
are
line.
You? Can you be specific to people that don't know who you are if they haven't followed you?
Yeah, sure. So I have a YouTube. I talk about these things all the time. There's always women around me. I'm non-apologetic about it. I tell the truth. There's no lies going on. There's no bullshit. There's, hey, I'm going to be this, and you can either come with me and you can have this kind of life, or you can not. And I'm going to be loving to you. I'm going to care about you, but I'm not going to sit here and lie about, I'm not doing anything that any other man would not do if he could. And she can respect that. And, one thing that I told her once, she had a fiance for 6 years, and she was telling me about, I left him because he cheated. And I said, no, you didn't. You left him because he was too much of a coward to tell the truth, and he lied to you like a bitch. And it was a big turning point in the relationship between her and I. And she knows exactly what I do all the time. Now, I might not throw it in her face. I don't put it on social media, but she knows who I am. She knows that there's women around me all the time. And she texts me good night every night, sends me a picture of her laying in bed, no makeup on every night, like fucking clockwork. Mm-hmm. And I have no issues out of her. And I mean, my name is tattooed on her hip. It's a Tate move, I guess. But I mean, it's all there, man. And she will openly say, I've never been happier in my life. because her whole agenda is working, you know, around making my life better and building everything that I'm trying to do. And I think most women would be most happy in that place, whether they know it or not. And most women don't even know what they want.
What's
She
it like?
didn't.
What's it like living with Sterling? You know, what's it like having a porn star as a roommate?
Amazing. Sterling Cooper is
Talk
one of the
about
best
why,
human
man. You know,
beings.
you got some stories that you
Yeah,
can share
yeah,
that
absolutely,
Sterling
man.
would be bothered by.
It's like having a brother. The happiest time of my life is when I was playing college football.
Mhm.
And so when I try to back into that, I'm like, what was it? Well, I was lifting weights, I was chasing girls all day, and I didn't have to worry about money. So now I live with Sterling, and we're running through Cubans, and we'll double date or we'll wrangle. I know Tristan talks about wrangling, so we'll invite 6 girls to the same place and get caught. Give a fuck. They can leave, but you know what's funny about that? They don't leave. So it's, hey, you going to boxing today? Oh, cool. You're a bitch, you know? And then we turn up and go, or like, hey, are you working? So if he's sitting at the desk there working in the kitchen, I have to. If I don't, I'm a punk. And so most of my happiness comes from when I feel like I'm getting better. Obviously, I grew a steel company, not an internet-based business, so I learn a lot from Sterling. And he's absolutely a wonderful human being. I love him. I love him to death, man. I'm very lucky to have him. He feels the same way about me. He probably wouldn't say it out loud. And if he did, he'd have to call me a name. But it's incredible. I do believe it's the happiest way to live as a man because, you know, the women, they come and they go. But like we said before, man, there's no such thing as female pallbearers. Never seen one. So I feel very grateful to have Sterling in my life. It brings a true joy to have that brotherhood. And I get the same thing when I'm hanging out with Andrew and Tristan in Sartorial here. I'm in his house right now. And it's just, we are non-apologetically living our lives. And the closer we get, the more we seem to win and make money together. So
How did you come across Sterling, by the way? Like, how did you guys meet?
Sterling and I met in Las Vegas at a War Room event. I was there with Tristan and a couple of girls, and Sterling popped up and he was going to meet Andrew. And so he bumped into me by coincidence. And then he had to drive from LA to Miami. I guess he had it out with some people in the porn industry in LA. Mm-hmm. And I said, hey, man, stop in Baton Rouge on the way through. And he did. We smoked cigars, played some chess, sat out by the pool for a while, talked. And then I came to Miami for I think it was a crypto conference and then maybe a War Room event. And he needed some help setting up his YouTube with that maroon background. Mm-hmm. So I built that with him for a day or two. We got that done. And he had an extra bedroom. I'm like, I'm coming. He's like, turn up. And we've been basically hip and hip ever since, man. You know, it was one of those things. I always say fuck time and fuck blood. And what I mean by that is I don't care how long I've known an individual. And I don't care if they're family or not. If our souls align and we're on the kind of the same path and the wavelengths are right, then it's right. And Sterling and I definitely have that. And it makes me more bulletproof. Nothing can really get to me because I know I have Sterling, if that makes sense. So let's say the girl fell for the family thing. And I was having to deal with that. Well, I would have Sterling there to keep me right. And we would, you know, we'd say, okay, cool. Let's just go get some girls going on a date. She can fuck off. You know, it's very powerful having that relationship with a group of another guy or a group of guys where, you know, that number one, he's always going to be there and keep you on the right path and keep your head straight and keep you doing the things you're supposed to do, like training and making money and being the best version of yourself. And then also we have what I would say is world-class loyalty. If I have a girl that messaged me on Instagram, I don't care how many followers she has. I don't care how hot she is. If I click on her profile and it says followed by Sterling Cooper, I'll send a snap to the group message and we offer. Like, I'll never talk to her again. In fact, had that situation with Andrew the other day, because most of the time when we all go to the same city, we'll all match the same girls. And there was this girl, she's legit 10. And I showed Tristan and he said, man, I'm pretty sure that Andrew got with that girl in Poland. So I sent a screenshot. She had something stupid, blue check, the whole thing. And Andrew said, yeah, I did. And she's a bitch. I'm like, cool, I got her. And I said things to her that I promise no man's ever said to her. There's just something about having a loyalty between brothers that is very real, and you really have each other's back in a way that it's impenetrable. What I
Yeah, I
have
agree.
with
Like, I think that society tells guys to abandon that tribal nature, to,
grow up,
yeah, grow up and, just
mature.
wife her up. You should really overly invest in this one woman sort of thing.
Yeah,
And in a risky way in North America, which usually ties into marriage or some shit like that. But yeah, they don't tell you to form a brotherhood or a tribe of men that are going to
yeah.
hold you accountable, right? Real important.
I think
We got
that's a
some new
missing link
supers
for
here.
most men.
Demon Platts talking about brotherhood. We got another one here. How did you guys build unbreakable discipline? I'm behind in my coding boot camp and want to catch up so I can finish and get a job, but I'm addicted to watching Rip Hill content and prawn. Okay. And he's got an avatar there of Jeff Bezos in his jacked photograph. All right. So what's your word on unbreakable discipline? Because this guy's addicted to porn and watching red pill content.
I think discipline is not the way people think it is. I think that discipline is something that you just go back to and go back to and go back to. It's kind of like that line where if this is the standard, you're going to kind of get away from it, get away from it, get away from it. But you just got to look yourself in the mirror. That voice inside your head needs to be very, very, very brutal with you. If you're not getting angry inside, you're in trouble because I made a video that talks about you have two voices in your head. You have a child voice and you have a grown ass man voice. And if this child voice gets so loud and I want to do what I want to do, I want to watch porn or I want to watch red pill content, and you can't hear this voice anymore, and this voice can't rage and shut this other voice up, you're in deep, deep shit. So to me, you really have to look deeply inside and say, where's that voice that looks myself in the mirror and gets really, really fucking angry and calls yourself names that would be toxic if somebody else said it to you. I mean, you have to get absolutely brutal with yourself. And if you can't do that, you're in trouble.
I think there's I mean, he didn't explicitly state it here in the super chat, but he said watching red pill content, he gets addicted to it. What I found is guys have become addicted to drama, red pill drama. Who's fighting with who on the internet? Somebody said this about somebody. Somebody's, program is better than the other one, or they ripped it off, or this person, whatever. It's just, or even to the point of what I see in a lot of these podcasts now. And, I tip my hat to Myron. Like Myron was one of my very early coaching clients, before he blew up with the Fresh and Fit podcast. But it's a lot of red meat, it's a lot of, let's put some drunk ratchet fives in a room that think that they're tens and let guys get off on the red meat, right? Just stop watching it, man. It's like, don't watch Jerry Springer for Men, basically, right? Like if you
And
find
that's what
that,
it is.
yeah, like if you find it's just fighting and drama and, like it's like rooting for a sports team. And, I hate to say it because sports is a big, part of everybody's life, but I can't sit around even watching sports. I find it boring, man, watching other people chase excellence. I'd rather do it myself, right? And I'm not going to be great at a lot of the stuff that I might go out and do because I'm older and, my body's starting to obviously fall apart. I mean, my ass ain't 23 anymore, but, yeah, like I just can't sit around and watch other people chase excellence. And if you think about it that way and you realize, again, there's a limited 24 hours in a day. And if you're wasting an hour or 2 hours or whatever, consuming stuff that doesn't serve you, stop. Again, the first step in unplugging is becoming aware of your own bullshit. The second step is becoming aware of everybody else's. You can't be red pill aware if you're not able to check yourself first.
Yeah, I agree
Hate to
with
say
that,
it, man.
man. Yeah, and those dudes, they get caught up and they're watching 3 and 4 hour podcasts. And I'm another person that I deeply respect Myron. But what those guys are missing about Myron is he's turning up every fucking day, rounding those girls up, getting on that podcast for hours. He's doing the work right in front of their face, and all they're focusing on is the drama at hand. And he's smart for doing it because it keeps people coming back. It keeps those super chats coming in, and there was times where I was a kid. I remember I would watch a movie. Let's say it was a karate movie or something. I would watch the movie and then I would go do karate in my room, or I'd watch a football movie and I'd want to go play, football in the yard. So if you're going to watch these YouTube videos about red pill or about business, don't forget the part where you go do it right after,
Yeah.
where you're inspired by it. If you're going to use it as fuel, not to masturbate with, because that's super, super dangerous. And next thing you know, you're going to have a life full of watching guys like Coop or me or Myron or whoever live an incredible life because we got up and went and did things every day. This is really secondary in my life, to be quite honest, what I'm doing on the internet. I'm actually working every day.
Do not miss the do the work part. That's simple as that. You know, you don't need to be held accountable in an accountability group. You don't need somebody. I mean, some people need somebody to just yell at them and call them fat or lazy or whatever. Okay, fine. You know, if that works for you, you know, you can yell at yourself in the mirror. It's one way to do it, but just check yourself, man. You know, it's doing the work is just as simple as that. Stop fucking around, wasting time doing things that are not productive. Consuming rather than consume, create. You know, make something. Um, all right. Well, let's. I think that was an awesome point to wrap this up on, dude. Like, I know you got stuff to do. I got a super book day too, so I want to like thank you, man. Like, you know, from the bottom of my heart for hopping on this one and sharing some nuggets of wisdom with everybody. Um, what do you want to shout out to, you know, before we wrap up? You want to send people over to YouTube? Is there something else that you want them to do?
Yeah. So you can find me on YouTube, jwaller7, and then on Instagram also. Actually, jwaller on YouTube and Instagram, jwaller7.
There you go. So go check out Justin. He's got some good content on his channel. Nice and tight. It's not long form or anything like that. It's going to eat up too much of your time. Appreciate you, man. And, you know, hope to meet you face to face one day. You know, you seem like a good dude.
Looking forward to it.
All right, brother. Send this.